As I mentioned, Federal Cabinet is meeting in Gladstone. Top of the agenda is the energy crisis. The warning of blackouts has come consistently for a couple of days now. Coal-fired power stations go offline, there's a gas shortfall and renewables can't meet that shortfall. Joining me live is the founder and managing director of Frontier Economics, Danny Price. Danny, it is a bit of a perfect storm at the moment. Why are we in this position?
Well, people are referring to it as an energy crisis, but in fact it's a policy crisis. It's been coming for a very long time. The signs of this have been here for many years, and there's been many warnings. And it's not just the coalition, it's not just Labor, it's not just the states or the federal government, it's all of them. They've all failed to come up with a decent energy policy to have an orderly transition to 2050, and it continues. So. But the reason why we're seeing this problem right now is that we have a combination of factors, as you know, people like to refer to it as a perfect storm. We have cold temperatures across 3-4 states. That's actually more usual than not. But in the last few years, it's been fairly mild winters and summers, and so we've kind of got away with it. But it happens at a time where less and less money has been spent on the power stations that really keep the system reliable, and that is coal and gas. And so inevitably, you spend less money on it. It's like a car. You spend less money on maintenance, it will fail, but it won't fail at any sort of predictable rate. What's really worrying about this, of course, is that it's these sort of climatic conditions where coal and gas-fired generators perform best.
Yeah.
So if you think it's bad now, summer is going to be horrendous.
Yep, when we all have the air conditioning on. Okay, so you talk about a policy failure of the last 10 years, probably more. I'd say it's 20 actually, but we are where we are at the moment. So what is the solution for now? I mean, governments seem very reluctant to prop up these coal-fired power systems and put more taxpayer money into it. It seems that gas is the best transition fuel. Can we get more into our domestic market?
Well, we won't have enough gas capacity. So there's the fuel that goes into the gas generators, and then there's the gas generators themselves. There's not enough gas generators on the ground right now, or likely to be over the next few years, to replace the coal-fired generator before renewables and other forms of storage has come in place. So you kind of have to do something about coal. It's inevitable that you must do something about coal. And just promising to double down on renewables only makes this problem worse, because they'll spend even less money on the coal-fired generators, and they'll become less reliable more quickly. And so remember, the whole place has sort of fallen apart in less than a week because of some power shortages. Imagine what it looks like if this is protracted for weeks, months, years. And what I'm telling you is that it's more likely to be years. So there's no short-term fixes here. These are problems that have been designed by bad policy, and we're now bearing the fruits of that. And so there are solutions to this. You do need to do something about coal-fired generators and make sure that they stay in service for their nominated lives. And at the moment, they're struggling to be able to do that because they can't figure out whether the money they spend on it will ever be recovered. And so you have to reduce that. You have to reduce that uncertainty for those coal-fired generators.
So, Danny,
that doesn't mean that you have to keep them going.
Yeah, just explain to me why we have to keep those coal-fired generators going and why we couldn't rely more heavily on gas.
Inevitably we will rely more heavily on gas, but coal-fired generators they still represent 60% of all the energy that's produced in the national electricity market, and so that's a lot. That is a lot of energy. And if you try and produce that energy from gas-fired generation, it will cost you a lot more for two reasons. The fuel is way more expensive, and we don't have enough generation capacity to run that much gas. And so we do need to keep those coal-fired generators going as long as their current nominated dates, so there's a more orderly transition. It's just without it, we won't actually be able to meet supply. we won't be able to meet demand.
Okay, so essentially we're headed to net zero. That's almost bipartisan, and given the makeup of the Senate, I think it's inevitable at the moment. Is essentially the political class banking on, by 2050, there being a better renewable storage solution, and there probably will be, but we can't see what that is now. So essentially we're in no man's land.
Yeah, look, people love to try and sort of predict, the technology that will save us all, whether it's nuclear or hydrogen or batteries, but it'll be a combination of technologies, as it has been for the last 80 to 100 years in the power system. There's always been a blend of technologies, and that kind of makes sense because it gives you more diversity and therefore better risk management. And so it will be a combination of those technologies, and we will eventually get to 2050. But remember that the current target is 43% for the country by 2030. What that means for the power system is that by 2030, just over 80% of all generation will be from renewables. And at the moment, it's just over 30%. So it's a massive task between over the next, this is just 8 years. So in the next 8 years, more or less, all the coal-fired generators have to go. And so Labor's target, and the way to think about it, and here's a fun fact for you, is that Labor's target is made up by the addition of all the current state targets. We were always going to be at 43%, whether it was Labor or the coalition. So it's the states that are driving most of these this transformation, and the states have all these different schemes, all operating in different ways, and that's an area for policy attention to try and bring these schemes together. So it's much more orderly, it's cheaper, and we don't end up with these sort of supply shortfalls because, in part, what's happening is that the states are promising more and more, and the coal generators are backing away, faster.
Well, Danny, it's a very complex area of policy, and we thank you for explaining it this morning.
All right, thank you.